If you do this, you will not realize it in just 1 week. Stoicism Introduction. You don't need to change the world. Just change the way you look at it, and the world changes with you. We grow up surrounded by constant pressure to succeed, to stand out, to do something different with our lives. So we step into the world carrying that ambition like a suit of armor. But before long, that armor turns into a burden. Expectations start to weigh us down. Comparisons close in. A single offhanded remark, sometimes just a passing comment, is enough to knock our hearts off balance. That's modern life, a race where, sometimes, you don't even know who you're racing against or why. And in that chaos, there are moments when all you want is to stop, not to quit, but to breathe, to listen, to ask yourself one question, seemingly simple, yet often forgotten. What am I really living by? In an age that's loud and overflowing with choices, there exists an old philosophy, quiet, unflashy, but steady like mountain rock. It doesn't promise to make you a millionaire. It won't help you win every argument, but it teaches you how to win over yourself. That's Stoicism. Stoic thinking isn't a religion, and it's not some rigid doctrine. It's a roadmap for the mind, a guide to inner clarity in a chaotic outer world. It doesn't tell you don't be sad. It simply reminds you sadness is natural, and you don't have to let it take the wheel. It doesn't say you have to be strong all the time. It teaches that true strength lies in how you respond, not what you feel. Right now, you might be sitting there, scrolling past some bad news, reading a looming deadline notification, and feeling overwhelmed. This world moves at a speed that seems hostile to calm. And that's exactly why you need Stoicism more than ever. Not to escape the world, but to walk through it with stillness. You can't control the storm, but you can learn how to balance in the wind. And the Stoics, 2,000 years ago, already lived that way. Today you'll learn how to live like they did, not by memorizing their teachings, but by becoming part of them. We're not here to talk about philosophy as a subject, but as a way of life, a rebirth from the inside out. And it begins with you. Part 1. Master your mind, master your inner world. You cannot control the world, but if you can control your mind, you've just changed your fate. A morning like any other. You wake up, your hand hasn't even left the pillow before it reaches for your phone. The first 3 minutes of your day are filled with scattered news headlines, a few negative posts, and a blunt work message. Your eyes are still half closed, but your mind is already tangled. You enter the day like you've been thrown onto a battlefield, without even time to put on your armor. You check your inbox. A deadline's approaching. An email from your boss, with a slightly sharp tone. Just a small critique, but it's enough to make you feel useless for the rest of the day. Nothing around you has changed. The work is still the same, but you're no longer yourself. Just a few taps on a screen, and your mood sinks to the bottom. Not because the world changed, but because you let it in, without any defense. The Stoics call this one of the most dangerous kinds of loss, the loss of control over your own mind. They didn't believe the world needs to be perfect for them to be at peace. They didn't expect others to change for them to feel happy, because they understood this. The one thing you truly own is your thoughts. And if you let those thoughts run wild, aimless, unfiltered, sooner or later, they will drown you. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who was once a slave, once said, "We are not disturbed by what happens, but by our thoughts about what happens." A piece of feedback isn't a wound. But if you label it as humiliation, you turn it into a knife, one that cuts straight into your pride. To master your inner world, you need to train yourself to become the observer of your thoughts, not the one controlled by them. Start with 3 small steps. Write down the negative thoughts as they arise. Ask yourself, is this the truth or just the way I'm interpreting it? And finally, choose a different lens, a view that's fairer, more rational. When you do this often enough, something remarkable begins to happen. The things that made you angry yesterday lose their power today. The criticisms that once pierced you now feel like nothing more than a passing breeze. Because you've learned how to protect yourself from within. Either you are the master of your mind or its servant, and that choice will always be yours. Part 2, Obstacles, the only path to growth. Don't avoid hardship. Face it, because it's the mirror that reflects your inner strength. In 1914, a fire destroyed nearly the entire laboratory of Thomas Edison. Years of research, thousands of documents, equipment, and projects he had poured his life into, gone in flames. His son panicked, rushed to find him, but when he did, he found Edison simply standing there, watching the fire blaze, and saying in an oddly calm voice, "Wonderful, all my mistakes have burned away." It's not that Edison didn't feel the pain, it's that he understood. When something is taken from you, the only thing you still have is your response. And if you choose the right response, you haven't lost anything. You've evolved. The Stoics understood this deeply. They never asked, "Why me?" They asked, "What can I learn from this?" They believed that every adversity isn't a punishment, but a test, a chance to see whether you truly deserve the person you say you want to become. We often wish life were smooth, easy, but have you ever seen a strong muscle built without resistance? A deep mind that hasn't been through hurt? A resilient spirit that hasn't faced panic? Obstacles aren't in the way. They are the way to reaching who you truly are. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "The obstacle is the way," not because he wanted you to suffer, but because he knew. Only when you dare to move through what scares you, do you begin to discover just how strong you really are. So how do you begin? The next time you face a challenge, instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" write this down. This is an opportunity to learn patience, to build grit, to reshape your ego. Then choose one small, meaningful action, send the email, reply to the message, or simply breathe. And don't give up. You don't need to make huge strides in a single day, but you do need to prove to yourself that you're not running away. Because sometimes just standing still and not fleeing from hardship is already a victory. Remember, the obstacle is the way, and that path, rough as it may be, will lead you to places the easy roads never could. Part 3, Reaction or Reflex. You choose. One moment of rage can destroy everything you've built in a lifetime. You're working, and suddenly a message pops up. Just a few words, but they feel like a punch to your pride. Someone misunderstood you, twisted your good intentions, or worse, attacked you bluntly and unfairly. Your fingers start to tremble. Your heart races. Your mind begins composing 100 sharp replies. You're standing right at the edge, between reflex and response. And then you pause. You take a deep breath. 1 beat, 2 beats, 3. You put the phone down. 5 minutes pass. You look back at the message with different eyes, and this time you don't respond. Not because you're weak, but because you've just mastered yourself. You've protected that relationship, and more importantly, you've protected your own inner peace. The Stoics believed you can't control the world, but you can always control your response. Others may be rude, may misunderstand, may insult you. That's their business. Your business is choosing how you respond, with reason or with impulse, with strength or with instinct. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens that harms us, but how we perceive it." Meaning, an insult has no power until you hand it the power. A bad act can't drag you down unless you react as if you're small. In anger, we often forget what we say, what we do, and who we hurt. But afterward, the consequences remain. Some things said in a moment of rage can never be taken back, no matter how many times you apologize. So train yourself to develop a new kind of response when emotions run high. Take a deep breath and count to 3 before reacting. Give your reason a chance to step in between your emotions and your actions. Ask yourself, is this response building or destroying? Is it building a relationship, building your self-image, building your inner strength, or is it tearing everything down? When you respond with calm, you're not becoming weaker. You're choosing to become stronger. The weak need to strike back immediately to prove themselves. The strong know when to stay silent. The world will continue to throw things at you that stir your anger, but you don't have to let those things define who you are. Be the calm one in the storm, because that's real power. Part 4. Do the right thing. Even when no one is watching, who you are is defined by what you do when no one is looking. On a quiet street, a man walking alone spots a wallet on the ground. No one's around, no cameras, no suspicious glances, no applause. It's just him and a decision. He opens the wallet and sees cash, identification, and a phone number. He could quietly walk away. No one would ever know. But he makes a call, finds the owner, returns the wallet, and even refuses a thank you. Not because he wants praise, but because he understands. He's the one who has to live with himself every day. The Stoics call that living with virtue, not grand, heroic virtue, just honesty when no one demands it, fairness when no one's watching, consistency when no one is cheering. The Stoics don't ask, is this easy? They ask, is this right? They don't look for the shortest path, but the one worth walking, even if sometimes that path is a lonely one. We live in a world that often rewards speed, cleverness, and the ability to cut corners. And in that constant motion, it's easy to start compromising the little things, thinking, who's going to know? Just this once. But it's those little moments that quietly carve away at your character, piece by piece. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, once wrote, "Live as if what you do will be carved in stone, not written in sand." Meaning, don't do the right thing just when someone's watching. Do it because it's what you believe in, not what you perform. The path of virtue doesn't demand perfection. It only asks that you keep choosing what's right, even in the smallest things. Each day, choose to do one right thing, even if no one sees it, from not telling a convenient lie to staying patient when it's easier to explode. Recognize the situations where you're tempted to compromise with yourself and pause. Ask, does this betray my values? You won't always win, but every time you choose virtue over convenience, you etch a permanent mark into your soul. And one day you'll realize it's those quiet decisions, not the flashy successes, that shaped who you are. The world can take your wealth, your reputation, your relationships, But there's one thing no one can take from you: your virtue, if you truly live by it. Virtue is the greatest reward because no one can steal it from you. Part 5. Less to live more. Are you really living, or are you being controlled by the things you own? You feel exhausted, constantly tired, even though you're not lacking comfort. You feel busy, always busy. But when you stop and ask, what am I busy with? You're startled to realize so much of your current life isn't truly necessary. Social appointments you don't want, phone notifications that have nothing to do with you, half-hearted relationships you keep out of politeness, things you bought thinking they'd bring happiness, now just sitting there, quietly weighing you down. The more modern life becomes, the more people try to accumulate stuff, connections, plans, information. But the more we accumulate, the heavier we feel, because many of the things we own end up owning us. The Stoics saw this clearly even long ago. They chose simplicity, not out of asceticism, but because they understood the only thing worth enriching is the mind, not the closet, not the social circle. Epictetus once said, "It's not what you have that makes you free, but how you use it." A person who has little but knows what's enough, who lives aligned with their values, is far richer than someone surrounded by everything, yet always feeling lacking. Living simply in thought doesn't mean throwing everything away. It means knowing what truly matters and having the courage to let go of the rest. And when you do that, you're not just lighter, you're creating space for the things that truly matter: peace, meaningful relationships, focused attention, time for yourself. You can start today with small actions. Delete one app that distracts you but doesn't help you grow. Cut ties with a toxic relationship, someone who drains your energy but never gives anything positive in return. Write down 3 things you could let go of today, whether material items, habits, or unrealistic expectations. And try letting go of just one. Remember, you don't need everything. You only need enough. And the less you depend on what's outside, the stronger you become inside. When you stop chasing everything, you begin walking in truth with yourself. The world will always try to convince you you're lacking money, beauty, achievements. But Stoicism quietly whispers the opposite. You already have enough if you know what enough is. The rich person is not the one who has much, but the one who needs little. Epictetus, take away a little, to live more, not outwardly, but inwardly. Part 6. Discipline, a fuel more lasting than motivation. Motivation gets you started. Discipline keeps you going, even when you don't feel like it. There are days when you wake up and just don't want to do anything. No desire to study, no energy to work, no will to get out of bed. Everything feels foggy, tangled. You open your notebook knowing you should write, but no words come. You glance at the yoga mat, knowing you should move, but your body feels sluggish, heavy, but still. You write 1 page. Not a great one, but an honest one. You do 5 push-ups. Not many, but you count each rep. And in that moment, you've just won. You don't need motivation to do the right thing. You need discipline. The Stoics understood that emotions are unstable. Today you feel inspired, tomorrow you might not. If your life is built on whether or not you feel like it, it'll drift like a leaf in the wind. But if you live by principle, doing what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel, then you begin to build something rare: inner strength. Seneca once wrote, "We do not control circumstances, but we control our habits." And habits are built through discipline, not bursts of inspiration. Discipline isn't flashy. No one cheers you on for writing 1 page a day or for eating clean, but it's those quiet, consistent acts that form your true foundation. Discipline is doing what's right, not because someone's watching, not because you're in a good mood, but because you've decided to be a person of principle. Start small, but start consistently. Set a minimum action, just 1 page of writing, 5 minutes of reading, one physical movement, and commit to doing it every day, no matter how you feel. Schedule instead of waiting for motivation. If you wait for the right mood, you'll rarely begin. But if you make an appointment with yourself, like you would with a close friend, you'll show up on time with full respect. Discipline is a daily choice, not to become robotic, but to free yourself from the chaos of fleeting emotions. Each day you do what's right, you lay another brick in the fortress of your inner world. Maybe today you don't do much, but if you still do something small and right, you're winning quietly, but deeply. Don't wait for inspiration to come. Go to where it will find you. And that place is discipline. It's where you still do the work, still live in alignment, even when there's no spotlight. Just you and yourself, becoming the person you truly respect, one step at a time. Part 7. Pain, the harshest teacher. You don't get to choose pain, but you can choose to become stronger because of it. Here are moments when life pushes you to the bottom. You fail at a project you poured your heart into. You lose someone you love before you even had the chance to say thank you. You sit alone in the middle of the night, feeling like the whole world has turned its back, while loneliness clings tightly to every thought. In those moments, you don't know if you'll ever rise again. Pain becomes a shadow that covers everything you once believed in. You can choose to collapse, or you can choose to stand up and turn pain into the raw material for rebirth. The Stoics didn't deny pain. They didn't try to ignore it or pretend to be tough. They faced it. No running, no suppressing, no freezing. And in that clarity, they began to peel back the layers of emotion, to uncover the lessons that only hardship can teach. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who was once a slave, endured beatings, humiliation, and injustice. But he didn't let himself become a victim. He wrote, "It's not what happens to you that causes suffering, it's how you see it and what you choose to do with it. In the furnace of pain, you either shatter or become steel, and you are the one who decides. Start seeing pain not as injustice, but as a strict yet honest teacher. Every wound holds a lesson. Every time you fall is a chance to look inward, not to blame, but to understand yourself more deeply. You can begin with 2 simple but powerful actions. Write in a journal and ask yourself, what have I learned from this pain? Be honest. No sugarcoating, no avoidance. Acknowledge the emotions you're feeling and allow them to exist without judgment. Sadness, anger, disappointment, these are all human. What makes a difference is this: you don't let them define you. Remember, all inner strength is born from intentional endurance. No one has ever become steady without first feeling shaken. No one has ever become deep without loss. And no one has ever truly loved life without once being broken by it. Pain is not the enemy, it's a test, a path to discovering a version of yourself that is stronger, more resilient, and more profound. A version that only appears when all the lights go out, and you have to find the light from within. Pain is training. Every crack is where the light gets in. And maybe, just maybe, from the very thing that made you fall, you'll rebuild a self you never thought you could become. Part 8. Choose your battles wisely. You don't have to win every fight, only the ones that matter. You just spent 2 hours arguing with a stranger on the internet. One comment made you angry. You fired back. They fired harder. Emotions escalated. The keyboard became a weapon. But when the screen goes dark, you're left feeling drained, empty, and nothing really changed. No one won. All you lost was time, energy, and your inner peace. We often get pulled into battles that don't matter because of pride, ego, or the need to be right. But the truth is, not every battle is worth fighting. Not every reaction deserves your energy. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They didn't avoid conflict, but they chose carefully where their energy should go. They didn't try to correct everyone. They didn't waste time trying to win shallow arguments. Not because they were weak, but because they were clear. Mental energy is finite, and it must be protected for things that matter. Epictetus taught, don't waste your mind on what's outside your control. That could be a baseless insult, a negative person, or even the tempting chance to get revenge. But the Stoic will pause and ask, does this truly serve my values? If the answer is no, they let it go, decisively, gently, without regret. Life is already full of real challenges. If you go to war every time someone disagrees with you, you'll burn out before ever reaching where you want to go. A mature mind isn't the one that always reacts loudly. It's the one that knows when to stay quiet and when to speak up for what's truly worth it. You can practice this daily with one simple but sharp question. Is this battle really worth it? Does it bring me closer to the person I want to become? If the answer is no, choose to step back mindfully. Not because you lost, but because you chose peace. No one can control everything, but you can always control where you invest your energy. And remember, true victory doesn't come from how many people you've beaten in arguments. It comes from whether you stayed true to your values, even when misunderstood. A wise person doesn't fight every battle. They choose the ones where victory truly matters. And sometimes the greatest victory is simply walking away without needing to say a word. Part 9. Surround yourself with those who make you grow. You'll never fly high if you keep circling with those who only know how to crawl. It's a quiet weekend afternoon. You're out for coffee with an old friend. The conversation drifts casually until they suddenly ask, are you living in alignment with your values? No judgment, no criticism, just a simple question. That leaves you silent for a long time. And from that moment, something deep inside you stirs. Sometimes it takes the right person, the right words, at the right time, to shift the direction of your entire life. Not because you didn't know what was right, but because you needed someone to see the best in you and remind you of it. The Stoics understood this well. You're not just who you are the average of the people you spend time with. Marcus Aurelius once warned, be cautious of the company you keep. They silently shape your mind every day. So they didn't choose companions just for fun, for small talk, or shared hobbies. They chose them out of spiritual responsibility because they wanted to grow alongside people who held them accountable to their own principles. You don't need many, you just need the right ones. Try pausing and writing down the 5 people you spend the most time with in a week, not by relationship titles, but by frequency of influence. Then ask yourself, who among them inspires you to be better? Who asks questions that make you reflect on how you're living? And who makes you lazier, more complacent, or play it safe? Because they do the same? No one can grow while living in a small pond where everyone tells each other, this is good enough. You need people who aren't afraid to challenge your comfort if it helps you grow. People who will call you out when you drift off course. People who raise the standard, not by preaching, but by quietly living by their own. At first you might feel uncomfortable, but with time you'll realize they are the truest mirror of your maturity. And in return, you must become someone like that for others. Not perfect, but principled. Not dazzlingly successful, but sincere in how you live. Because your presence also silently shapes those around you. Be with people who don't let you live small, because one day when you look back on your life's path, you'll realize it wasn't how many books you read, but who you chose to walk alongside. Part 10, Live as Your Best Self, starting today. The person you want to become is not a dream. It's a decision made right now. Have you ever imagined who you really want to be? Not someone famous, rich, or flawless, but the best version of yourself. Someone calm under pressure, someone who keeps their word, someone who lives by their values, even when no one's watching. You've likely had that image before, on a quiet night or a tired morning after living too long in ways that didn't reflect what you believe, and you told yourself, one day, I'll live like that. But the Stoics don't wait for one day. They begin now. No perfect circumstances needed. No need to have all the skills. No need to be flawless. Just act as if you are already that person. Because they knew becoming someone doesn't start with thinking. It starts with living. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't wait for someone else to show you what it means to live with principle. Be that example. Live as if you are already the ideal person you long to become." You want to live with more depth? Then today listen more attentively when someone speaks. You want to live with discipline? Then today do one right thing, even if you don't feel like it. You want to live with calm? Then today choose silence when someone tries to provoke you. That's not pretending, that's training yourself. Each day choose one action that reflects your ideal self. Then repeat it until it becomes who you are. You don't need a grand declaration. You just need to start living the way a principled person would live. Quietly, simply, but in the right direction. Because if you keep waiting until you're ready, you'll always be stuck at the starting line. The Stoic doesn't wait for circumstances to change, because they know you can't control the world, but you can always control how you act. You don't accidentally become better. You choose to become that person every day in every small decision. No one can do it for you, but no one can stop you either if you truly begin. Remember, you don't become someone by thinking, you become them by living like them every day, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, but right now, because everything you long for is already inside you. You just need to allow yourself to live it. The final chapter, the Stoic journey. Each day is a choice to master yourself. You've just walked through a journey of 10 Stoic principles, not to memorize, but to live differently. Each part was a window into your inner world, where your real life is shaped. You learned how to master your mind so you're not dragged through rushed days by your emotions. You understood that obstacles don't block your path. They are the path. You practiced responding instead of reacting, holding calm like a quiet strength. You chose to do what's right, not for praise, but so you don't have to avoid your own reflection. You simplified to live more, letting go of what doesn't matter to make room for what does. You trained discipline, the kind of fuel that lasts even when motivation disappears. You faced pain like a teacher, one that peace alone could never be. You chose your battles wisely, not out of cowardice, but from wisdom. You surrounded yourself with people who challenge you to grow, not just make you comfortable. And finally, you started living as your best self, not waiting, not postponing. These aren't just philosophies for thought. They are a compass for living in a world that is messy, unpredictable, doubtful, and pressured. So remember this truth deeply. No philosophy is useful unless you live by it. Epictetus once said, "Don't just read Stoicism. Don't just talk about Stoicism. Live like a true Stoic." You don't have to transform your whole life overnight. You just have to choose one small thing and begin to live it today. Maybe it's one calm reaction instead of a heated impulse, one right decision, even if no one sees it, one question each morning. If I were my best self today, what would I do? Because the truth is, your best self has never been far away. It's not waiting at the end of a long road. It's just behind one decision. And that decision, only you can make. So choose, right now. Live like a Stoic, not perfect, but principled, not unshakable, but guided, not by avoiding reality, but by facing it, with a mindset that is aware, calm, and strong. Because in each choice you make every day, you're not just living, you're becoming.